What's up, Fantasy League enjoyers? How you doing? Another day and another game is coming around the corner. It's a very quick turnaround from the group stage to the playoff stage of PGL Bucharest. And I was fortunate enough, it was out of nowhere, it was unexpected, but I was fortunate enough to actually cast 3 of the 4 days over on the B stream, which I had a great time doing. Working with Anders and PGL again is always a joy, is always a privilege and an honor, and I had a really good time. And so I also have a bit of insight because I watched a lot of these games, and I was fortunate enough to watch the Mongols a lot, Falcons, Liquid. So really these teams, apart from Aurora, which I didn't get to cast once, but the other ones I did, I got to see their trajectory of how they got through to this point, like firsthand, and being very much alert to what happened. So first things first, because it's a pretty fast turnaround, I'm going to try and make this video fairly brief because I just want to get this out as fast as possible. But we do have Aurora kind of performing as I expected. They went through 3-1. I said 3-0-3-1 is what I'd be looking at from the Turkish guys. They lost 3D Max. It was a close game. Aurora probably shouldn't be losing that game realistically, but whatever. Apart from that, it was smooth sailing for them. Liquid's out 0-3. I did talk about this in the last video. I think we have to temper expectations. Some people are being very unreasonable and unrealistic, saying it was a massive failure and this squad is going to fail and they're never going to do anything and it's trash and Shubi was the wrong decision. It's like, guys, he's been in the team for like literally a week or something. They've barely had any time to prepare. They're transitioning from one style of IGLing to another, from Twist to Shui. He's trying to find his way in the team. He's trying to find all these different things that he can try and utilize to make this as good as possible. Like, let's be real about this. They were unlikely to get too much done at this event. I thought purely off the basis of their individual sort of talent and their players, maybe they could squeak by it like a 3-2 or go out like 2-3. It didn't work out that way. They got knocked out 0-3, but they did play against the Mongols in their last game, which of course is always going to be a difficult one, right? And the fact that the Mongols are even in a 0-2 position, losing to the likes of Apogee, is insane to me. Like, I never would have foresaw that happening. If they had a struggle, I thought 3-1, 3-2 would be the worst case scenario, but for me, they were probably the favorites overall between them and Aurora. So this is a very big shock. This is a very big surprise, and they looked horrible. I came into this year saying I thought this would be Mongols' year. Maybe not to win a major, but to at least be a contender, like a legit contender. Get to playoffs, get to semi-finals, maybe even a final itself, because this last year, 2024, was them finding their way. It was becoming experienced. It was moving from kind of like, I don't want to say newbies in terms of their skill level, but newbies in terms of their experience levels to like a veteran team. And it's just not went that way. I've heard speculation about burnout and things of that nature, and that could be true. It could be true. They could still bounce back. They could still make believers out of me yet, but it was the nature and how they were getting beat, man. Like against Apogee in particular, I watched that game. It was so one-sided in practically every single metric. Apogee outfought them, they outdueled them, they outthought them, and they just were so much better. Like, I'm saying outfought them because every time they went for a duel, it was like Jacob was winning out in the 1v1s. It was Prism, who's their IGL, that was styling on them. It was Hypex that was wrecking them. Like, the entire team was just going like blow for blow with Mongols and winning fights. That is one of Mongols' main strengths, is their crazy mechanical aim. Like we saw in parts from Mazinho, he was probably the standout player, I would say, from the entire squad over the duration of the event. 9-10 had some good maps, but then he also had some games where he's totally absent. Techno continues to struggle, as does Blitz individually. But man, this Mongols team did not fill me with confidence whatsoever, and I was very disappointed, I got to say. So that's kind of how we are here. Top 60% because I believed in the Mongols mainly, and I went for the gamble pick of Shui thinking maybe they could squeak out, and it was purely based off budget, but I've already talked about that in the last video. So that now puts us into 10th position. So we have technically moved down a little bit, but in actual fact, it's got way closer, and I've made up ground on quite a few people above me. So before I was 15 points behind Nero, now I'm 11 points. I was 10 points behind Hugo, now I'm 7 points. So we have caught up in that regard, but people like Steel had a blinder. I think he was top 5, top 6% here. So he got 15 points for this last game. He had a really good one. So he flew up the rankings, and he is now just 1 point behind me. So we have to have a good playoff here. It's really important. The way it's gone, though, with some of these results and some of the teams like the Mongols not making it to the playoffs, has put this into a very exciting and interesting and very tough to call playoff bracket, I would have to say, especially on this top half. I think the bottom half kind of plays itself out for me personally. I would expect Aurora and G2 to be in the semi-finals, where I'd expect Aurora to win and make it through to the grand finals, and I think Aurora will win this tournament. Possible they don't. It's not like they've been flawless, and they have had issues in the past with closing events out. So I'm not going to take anything for granted, but if a gun was to my head right now, I'm saying I think Aurora take this and they get the W. The top side, though, is incredibly close. And I also, by the way, having said that, I kind of just waltzed over Complexity. They were great. They were way better than I expected. For all of the disappointments of teams like the Mongols, and maybe to a lesser extent Liquid, Complexity were very surprising in the best possible way. Some huge results in the playoffs, never saw that happening. I actually thought they might be a 0-3 contender, to be straight up honest about it, and they've proven me wrong and a lot of other people wrong. But in this top half, you have Gamer Legion against the Falcons. They've already played each other in the group stage, where the Gamer Legion absolutely steamrolled the Falcons. It was 13-1, 13-2, and Gamer Legion won it 2-0. Incredibly one-sided. Gamer Legion showing again that a lot of people are sleeping on these guys and underrating them. But what I will say, to play devil's advocate and to put the shoe on the other foot, so to speak, is that Falcons had a terrible start to this event, but they have gradually got better over time. And we've seen Dexter and Tesses in particular really start to shine bright towards the end of the group stage. Tesses was having multiple big moments against the Mongols, kept them in a couple of rounds on an Ancient, especially when it was 10-6 in favor of the Mongols on the CT side of Ancient, which is one of their best maps, if not their best, alongside Mirage. And Falcons were able to somehow make the Mongols fumble it and just throw the game. Again, the Mongols not playing on their A game by any stretch of the imagination, but Tessis had a couple of massive clutches, and then Dexter had an amazing series. It feels like these are the two players that are rumored to be on the chopping block right now. The whole Munacy thing, Kaiosuke as well, like coming into this for those two players. If that's the case, then they have every reason to want to make sure they're shining as bright as possible in what could be their last tournament with the Falcons, because that's going to potentially make someone, some other TO, go in for you and try and buy you out if they think that you're worth the money. Tesses, I think his stock was much higher when he was in Heroic. He was one of the best riflers on the planet in terms of how he was performing consistently. He was incredible when he was playing with Heroic. I think it's safe to say his Falcons journey has not been a good one. It's not been a kind one to him. It's not been a kind one to his stock. So having a good end here and seeing if Falcons can propel themselves to semis or grand finals with one or both those guys teeing off, it actually really benefits both of them to be in that position if the rumors are to be believed. Gamer Legion, though, do not write these guys off. They can still, you know, get the double up on Falcons and history repeat itself. I don't think it'll be as one-sided, because the other part of this as well is one thing you could maybe levy towards Gamer Legion is they're an inexperienced squad when it comes to like crowds, when it comes to playoffs. But as far as I'm aware, this is all inside the studio as well. I don't believe there is going to be a crowd. So if that is the case, then you can't even use that as like an advantage in favor of Falcons either. 3D Max and Faze, I think this is a coin flip. I genuinely think this is a 50-50. If you're looking at name value, you're looking at what the players individually are capable of at their max ceiling, then obviously Faze would be the favorites. But 3D Max are incredible when it comes to their protocols, when it comes to their strategies, when it comes to their mid-round calling. They're very, very good at these things, and that's why they beat Aurora. That's why they continue to get big wins against big teams consistently, and that's why they're in the playoffs. They could beat Faze. It's absolutely possible they beat Faze. Faze, though, they were warming up towards the end. We saw Elysian in particular start to have some very big maps. And although it's still a bit of a disappointment, I would say, and we're not really in the early stages anymore of Elise joining this team. We're now multiple months into it. I don't think Faze has got to the level that they were hoping for with this roster change. But if they could squeak out a win here at Bucharest, it would do the world of good to their confidence, to their general standing. It would turn a few heads. It would change a few opinions on how good this team actually is. So let's be real, again, you don't have Vitality here, you don't have Na'Vi, you don't have Spirit, you don't have Mouse. So this is a golden opportunity for FaZe, especially in their side of the bracket, to get a W, to get through to the finals here. Like, realistically, with the team they have, they should be making the finals, bare minimum of the semi-finals. Very difficult to call, so I've kind of splashed my cash in multiple plays and multiple teams with the hope that at least one of them makes the finals out of these 4 teams. So we've gone for Falcons, we've gone for 3D Max and Faze, and then of course I've doubled up on Aurora because I think they will win the tournament. Nico is a gamble in the sense he plays for Falcons, and it's possible they crash and burn against Gamer Legion. But one thing that has been consistent about this Falcons team is that Nico is by far and away their best player, and it's not even close. When they played against Pain a couple of days ago on Nuke, they were getting battered, and Nico still finished the first half on, I think it was 15 or 16 kills, and he was pretty much the only person that was fragging. He was individually, by himself, solo, trying to carry against the world outside, as he so often does. It's one of his best positions, and he has been incredible for Falcons at this tournament, even when they have been having horrendous starts to the event, horrendous starts to maps, just horrendous performances overall. But because Dexter and Tessus have also been standing up, I do think there's a chance that Falcons make a deep run here in the playoffs. And if they do, then Nico is going to be behind the wheel. He is going to be getting big scores. He's going to be getting a massive amount of points. So that's why I've gone for Nico on this side of the bracket, because no other player really stood out to me the same way. You could maybe go for Elige for Faze, but I don't think Elige right now is even close to Nico's level in terms of his consistent fragging. Even if he's in a team that's like theoretically better than the Falcons with Faze, I think Nico has still been popping off a lot more. So I'm going to go with Nico. I've gone for Rain and Graffiti purely off the basis of the budget that I had left after going for double Aurora stack. Rain was 195k. I think that's really good value for Rain. He's always going to do a job of some description. I don't think he's ever really let me down that much in terms of negative points. And even if he does, he's below that 200k mark, and I can still rely on these other three players. And then Graffiti was purely budget, but also because, like I said, I think 3D Max and Faze is a bit of a coin flip. I think it's a game that can realistically go either way, and if 3D Max do get the W, then at least I've got one player to make it through into the semi-finals out of that particular match. And Aurora kind of speaks for itself. I would have loved to have gone for Woxic because I think he's been really sharp lately. I'd have loved to have gone for Xantaras, but they were too expensive, and Wakadi is not a bad choice either. Like he's performing well right now, a 1.11 rating, and he has the potential to also take over maps and kind of solo carry if he needs to. So that's my team. I'm not fully convinced on this, I'll be real. I think Aurora are going to go far. But on the other side of the bracket, I've really tried to keep my options available with these three picks. Do you agree or disagree? Comment below and let me know what your team is. Have you stacked with maybe G2? I know a lot of people are believing in them right now, even though m0NESY might be shipping off after this event, which is what the rumors are. Are you a G2 believer? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.